Fort Bragg is an active post with soldiers training almost all the time. But for a number of years, soldiers had limited real estate in which to train. In our next story, James Williams explains how soldiers recently regained some training areas.
Installations like Fort Bragg exist for one reason: to train soldiers. If they can't do this, soldiers tell me they might as well pack up and go home. But for a number of years, soldiers have been restricted from training in certain areas, thanks to a federally protected bird. The red-cockaded woodpecker has been on the endangered species list since the 1970s, and that has made less land available for soldiers. Take a look at this map of Fort Bragg's training areas. As we push in, you can see all these little circles. They represent tree clusters for the red-cockaded woodpeckers. Now, soldiers are not allowed to train within 200 feet of each cluster. And as you can see, the restricted areas practically blanket Fort Bragg.
When we were in full training restrictions, soldiers could do nothing. If you entered a woodpecker cluster, you could walk through it. You couldn't dig, you couldn't stop for prolong, you couldn't have a generator, you couldn't be in the middle of a firefight with blanks or use pyrotechnics or smoke or anything. You physically had to stop training.
After clamping down on training for more than 10 years, Fort Bragg has reached its RCW population recovery goal and is lifting some training restrictions placed on soldiers. The red-cockaded woodpecker is thriving at Fort Bragg because of smart ecosystem management. Artificial cavities help create and stabilize groups of birds to grow the population.
The other thing we do that's very important is burning prescribed fires, and primarily in the growing season. The vegetation responds, it knocks back the mid-story. You have a lot more biodiversity altogether in the longleaf system.
Mike Lynch is the director of plans, training, and mobilization. He says the training and environmental staffs have worked together to make this possible.
The success that we have at Fort Bragg with the recovery of the woodpecker is a direct result of that team approach, working together, understanding each other's needs, and then finding the best way for both of us to get what we needed.
Lynch says lifting the restrictions from half the area is just the beginning.
Initially, we will remove 50%, so 50% of 160,000 acre posts will now be opened up. And then within 3 to 4 years, we would envision removing the rest of those training restrictions.
Fort Bragg has donated some red-cockaded woodpeckers to Forts Jackson and Gordon in hopes of resurrecting the bird populations there. James Williams, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.